Good morning, my dear students. Today we are going to do a new chapter, that is center of mass. Okay. Now, center of mass, if you have a system of mass distributed over in a system, you cannot say where the entire mass is concentrated because it has been scattered all around. Okay. So when you apply a force on the system, where will this force act? Okay. Which part of the system will move? How are we going to find out on which portion of this system the force is acting? Okay. So to solve all these problems, there is a term called center of mass. So what happens in a system? You have a system moving under some external force. Okay. Then a particular point in the entire system moves as if the entire force has been acting only on that particular point. Okay, that means that is the dominant mass over the entire other masses in the system. Okay, so it behaves as if the entire mass of the system is concentrated at that particular point, and also it behaves as if the entire external force was applied only on that point. Okay, so that particular point in that system of masses is called center of mass of the system. Okay, so here I am going to give you a diagram representing two particles in a system of mass m1 and m2. Okay, this is the Cartesian coordinate in 2 dimension. The position vector of this m1 is r1 and the position vector of m2 is r2 with respect to the origin. Okay, and the center of mass lies somewhere in between, okay, on the line joining these. So let the position of the center of mass be given by RCM. Let the point be C, and this is point A and this is point B. Okay, now in the figure M1 and M2 are the two masses whose position vectors are R1 and R2. Then the position vector RCM mathematically of the center of mass is given by RCM. How do you find out this RCM? There is a direct formula which is M1 R1 plus M2 R2 divided by the total mass of the system, that is equal to M1 by M2. So this is the position vector of the center of mass for a system of two masses. Okay. Now if you have a system of n particles in a system having masses as m1, m2, m3, m4 till mn, okay, how will you find out the center of mass? You can simply find it out by the summation, okay, summation of m1 r1 can be written as mi ri, okay, where I starts with 1, ends in 2. Like here I have started from 1 to 2. Here I starts from 1 to n because we have got n particles in the system, and this m1 plus m2 can be extended to m1 plus m2 plus m3 plus m4 till mn. Okay, that will be the total mass of the system, which can be written as 1 by capital N, where capital N is the total mass of the system. Alright, now this is RCM, which contains two components, that is x component and the y component. And if it is in 3D picture, then it also contains the z component. So in the next line, I am going to write down the Cartesian components of the center of mass. Okay. So you have RCM as, you can write RCM as XCM, that is x component of the center of mass in the direction of x. Okay, I is the unit vector in the x direction. YCM j cap plus ZCM k cap. So vectorially RCM is the sum of x component, y component and z component, where this XCM can be written as 1 by total mass of the system, summation, like we have done in the previous case, summation mi not ri now, here xi. Okay, so in the x direction m1 may be here, okay, the x component of m1 may be here, and this is x1, like that. Okay, where I starts from 1 to n. Likewise, y component of the center of mass can be written as 1 by n I is equal to 1 to n, and here we can write mi, yi. Likewise, ZCm, Z component of the center of mass, can be written as 1 by n. I is equal to 1 to n, and I remains the same, and here it is Z component of the center of mass. Okay. Now you have, so these are the Cartesian components of the center of mass. Okay, that means R has been broken down into x, y, and z components. Now, center of mass of a rigid body. Now, what is a rigid body? It is a body which does not undergo any change in shape by the action of a force. So, why does the body not change its shape even by the application of force? Because the constituent particles do not change their respective positions. Okay, so constituent particles retain their relative position, and the body does not change its shape or size by the action of a force. That kind of a body is called a rigid body. Now, what we are going to do with this rigid body is that we are going to find out an expression for the center of mass of a continuous body, okay, a continuous rigid body. So, to do so, we divide the body into infinitesimal elements. So, you have a continuous body like a rod. You divide the rod into very small elements. These are called infinitesimal elements, whose dimensions are almost equal to 0, and consider one such element of mass dm. So out of these many elements, take a small element whose mass will be also small, that is denoted by dm. Okay, now the center of mass of this dm is located at xyz in the Cartesian system. So xyz is a positional center of mass, okay, where xcm will be equal to x dm integral x dm, like this, okay, where x is the location of the center of mass in the x direction, and dm is the mass of that small element. Why we are integrating? Because like this we have got so many number of elements, we cannot add if they are very small. So what we are going to do, we are going to integrate it. Okay. Now, in the next step, we can write this integration dm is nothing but adding dm many number of times, which is going to give you the entire mass of the system. So it can be written as 1 by n integration of x dm. Okay. Next, similarly, y center of mass, okay, is equal to integration y dm, integration dm, that is equal to 1 by m again, integral y dm. Likewise, zcm is equal to integral z dm, dm is equal to 1 by m integral z dm. Okay. Now, if you want to express all these three vectorially, that means from one single expression, you can write it as r, position of the center of mass, r, okay, 1 by m integral r dm. So this is how you express the center of mass of a rigid body that is continuous. Okay. Now we will take this and apply it to find out the center of mass of a uniform rod. Okay. So let's proceed to find out the center of mass of a uniform rod. And let's CM of a uniform rod. See, you have a rod that is uniform. Uniform means the distribution of mass is uniform. So let m by l be the mass per unit length, which is uniform throughout the rod. Okay. Now, like we have done in the previous case, let's take the Cartesian coordinates y and x. This is the rod. Okay. Now, what we do is take a small segment CD. Okay. Let the entire length of the rod be L. Okay. Now, mass of the elemental length CD, that is dm. So take CD and find out the mass. It is given given by, like the small infinitesimal element, it is equal to dm. Okay. Now what is the total mass of the element? It is mass per length, and if the length of this is x, mass per length into the, not x, if it is dx, small length taken as dx into dx. So what is the mass of this segment CD? It is equal to m by l, that is the mass per length multiplied by the length. Okay. Now the x coordinate of the center of mass is given by xcm, okay, is equal to, like we have done in the previous one, the general expression was integral x dm by integral of dm. Okay, or if you want to integrate with definite length interval, because you know the total length of the rod is, it starts from 0 and the total length is L. So the limit of integration will be 0 to L. X dm was found out to be m by l into dx. So we'll write it here, m by l dx, okay, by dm. Okay. Now integrating it, we will get xcm is equal to m by l by 2n, okay, x square 0 to l. Okay. Now because integration of x is x squared by 2, so that will come down here, and we apply the limits of integration putting the square bracket, and we put this limit of integration that we have written here 0 to l as here. Okay. In the next step we are going to do, put the limits, m by l by 2n, m will be cancelled, so 1 by 2l l square. Okay, you have to replace this x by the upper limit first minus lower limits value. Okay, l square minus 0 square. So you will get 1 by 2l into l square. You can cancel l, so it is l by 2, which is position of the center of mass of the uniform rod. Now here we need not consider the y component because the rod is in one dimension, so we assume it to be only in the x direction, and that width of the rod is neglected because it is very small as you compare it with the diagram. Okay, diagram. So you can conclude that the center of mass of a uniform rod, the position xcm, since it is L by 2 and the total length of the rod was equal to L, so it is located at the midpoint. So provided the rod is uniform, the center of mass of a rod is located at the midpoint of the rod. Okay. Now, what happens to a system of masses when it starts moving under the influence of an external force? Okay, what will happen to the velocities of each and every particle? What will happen to the acceleration of each and every particle? How much force will they experience? So we give it the heading motion of center of mass, or center of mass motion. So let's consider a system of n particles. Okay, n particles whose masses are m1, m2, m3 till mn. Okay, and let each mass be moving with each velocity. Mind you, their velocities will not be the same because their masses are different. So their velocities will be different. v1, v2, v3 till vn. Okay. Now, velocity of the center of mass, the expression is given by 1 by n, and directly giving the expression m1 v1 plus m2 v2 plus so on till mn vn. So this will be the velocity of the system when it is moving under, moving with a certain velocity. Okay. Now, next, acceleration. Now once we know the expression for velocity, we can easily find out the value of acceleration. That is given by A, which is nothing but rate of change of velocity, so dv by dt. So we will take this expression and take the derivative of it. So acceleration of the center of mass is given by dv cm divided by, this is a vector quantity, dt, which can be written as d by dt, 1 by m can be taken out, d by dt of m1 v1 plus m2 v2 plus still mn vn. Okay, now 1 by n, okay, take the bracket m1. Now this, because m is a constant, we cannot take the derivative of it, so d v1 by dt plus m2 d v2 by dt and so on. Okay, now let's write it neatly in the form of ACM is equal to 1 by m in terms of a1 a2. Okay, m1 a1, where a1 is acceleration of particle 1 plus m2 a2, a2 is acceleration of particle 2. Likewise, we can go on till m n a n, where a n is the acceleration of the nth particle. Okay, now we are going to apply Newton's law to this last expression, that is the expression for acceleration. Okay, now from Newton's second law, you know ma is equal to f. Okay, so we can write, just take it up, we can write NaCm is equal to, because Na is equal to force, so m1 a1 can be written as force applied on the first particle plus f2 plus till fn. And one thing here, this f1, f2, all these are the total force, that means the sum of internal force, because the particles are also exhibiting a force on each other, that is called the internal force, and the external force acting on each particle. But what happens is that internal force, they cancel out each other, so that internal force is equal to 0. So F1 will be actually nothing but the total external force. Okay, now you can write NaCm is equal to the total external force acting on the system of particles. Okay, now if this is an isolated system, now what is an isolated system? If you recall in previous classes, isolated system is the system in which the external force, the net external force acting on the system is equal to 0. So if it is an isolated system, what is an isolated system? F external is equal to 0. So what we can write is that NaCm is equal to 0. Okay. Now if ACM is equal to 0, that means acceleration is equal to, because mass cannot be equal to 0, so product of these two quantities is equal to 0. So mass, since mass is not 0, ACM has to be equal to 0. Now when is acceleration equal to 0? When velocity is a constant. So in an isolated system, we can conclude that, like for one particle, even for a system of particles, the velocity of the center of mass is a constant. Okay, and likewise for a center of mass also, momentum is also conserved. Okay, so we will quickly prove the law, momentum conservation for the center of mass. Okay, now if we have a system of n particles, the total linear momentum of the system of n particles is given by, this is momentum conservation. Okay, so if you have a system of n particles, the total momentum is given by P, which is the sum of the momentum of individual particles till Pn. Okay, or we can write because momentum is the mass product of mass and velocity, m2 v2 plus till mn vn. Okay, but you have Vcm as equal to 1 by m m1 v1 plus m2 v2, that is the expression for velocity of center of mass which we have done a little earlier, plus mn vn. Okay, now what will this expression come out to be? It will come out to be, now this will be equal to this multiplied by m, isn't it? So these two will be equal. So you can write m1 v1 plus m2 v2 plus mn vn. mn vn, you just take it out, it will be equal to n into vcn. Okay. Now what is this? This is the total linear momentum of the system. So P is equal to mass multiplied by the velocity of the center of mass. Okay. Now in the next step, dP, take the derivative of it. dP by dt is equal to n dVcm by dt. Okay. Now this dVcm by dt is equal to rate of change of velocity of the center of mass, which can be written as MACM. Now M into A is equal to the total external force acting on the system, F external. Okay. We are going to use this last line to prove the law of conservation of linear momentum for a system of n particles. Okay. Now for an isolated system, if F external is equal to 0, then dP by dt is equal to F external, that is equal to 0, or if the derivative of a term is equal to 0, we can conclude that a term is a constant. So the total linear momentum of the system of n particles is a constant. So with this we have proved the law of conservation of linear momentum for a system of particles as well. Thank you for your attention.